Recording started.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. So again, just quickly, this session will be recorded, and you could go ahead and ask your questions on the Q&A section on this screen, on the bottom of your screen, and we'll address all those questions at the end of the event. Thank you very much, and good afternoon for joining us. And this, the last of the Summer Sustainability Series webinars, where we have an expert speaking on our zero waste plan, who's been working on this for quite a while and doing a great job of gathering all this information available and putting it all together into this really great, succinct plan that will see us move forward for the next 14 years. For the next 14 years on how do we start reducing our waste, how do we create programs that will help us get as close as possible to zero waste. And again, this is a living document. I'm sure this will be presented as we move forward. So Robert Coleman or Bob Coleman will be presenting on the zero waste plan. So I'll let him go ahead and take it away. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Manuel. Welcome, everyone. Yes, this presentation is about Chula Vista's road plan to zero waste, and I'm going to present an overview of the waste reduction strategy that we've put together. And just wanted to point out that this document, it's a very quick read. It's about, I'd say about 30 to 45-minute read. It's got lots of pictures in it to demonstrate zero waste practices, and lots of great information and graphs and such that are very pleasing to the eye. I wanted to point out, though, as well, that there's a website, www.chulavistaca.gov/zero waste. That is where you can read the plan, and that is where you can also provide online comments. We're looking for people to read the plan, give us your input, and we want to make sure that you have that opportunity. As well, the document is available in hard copy at all three libraries of Chula Vista libraries, at the accounts desk or the reference desk, and they can give it to you. You can read it, or you can actually use the computers there to read the document. So it is available in hard copy at the libraries to read for family or friends that are really not very computer savvy. So next slide, please. So with zero waste, what we're doing is we were trying to develop a plan that was based on a goal that came out of the city's 2017 Climate Action Plan. The Climate Action Plan said in one of their actions, develop a zero waste plan. So that's what we did. And our plan is seeking 90% waste diversion by 2035, and that's 14 years from now. And this plan will actually continues what the city has been doing since 2000 with a lot of strategic plans to create a cleaner environment. So this is the next one in a long series of plans to do just that. I wanted to explain that the zero waste plan really functions as like an umbrella for our new proposed plan actions, and also includes several current actions that we're currently doing. And so it functions as an umbrella. So it'll be easy to track and easy to measure our actions and how we're doing. And also another key thing is that this is, as Manuel said, this is a live document. So what we're going to be doing with this is every 3 years, we're going to be going back and doing a major evaluation and seeing what works and what doesn't. And if we have new ideas, we can try those. Or if some aren't working, we can eliminate those. So it is a live document. And being a live document, it gives you the chance as well, right now, as I mentioned earlier, to provide some input. And if we get some really good ideas, we may even modify what's in the draft plan now. So the key thing about this plan is, and with zero waste, is we really want to change the mindset of our community. And where it says there on your screen, you can see waste are resources. And I'll get into that in a bit. And also that by doing this, by diverting a lot of waste from the landfill, will also lessen the impact of greenhouse gas emissions on our environment. Next slide, please. Part of understanding zero waste is to knowing the definition. The city is using the Zero Waste International Alliance definition. It's there on the screen. I'm going to encourage you to read it and read more in the actual plan at the website I already mentioned. So basically, the key thing to understand is that in the past, wastes were considered natural, unavoidable byproduct that's just discarded for consumer and manufacturer convenience, the easy way, the easy route, not being smart. But now we consider these materials, many of them that are going to the landfill, are actually valuable resources that can be used again in many different ways. Next slide, please. So to further understand what we're trying to do in planning for zero waste, you need to understand these three key objectives. First one is reduce the volume and toxicity of waste by eliminating them in the first place. So what that's really getting back to is if we have these materials that can be reused, plastics, metals, glass, wood, paper, why shouldn't we reuse them? We should recycle them, make those back into raw materials. By doing that, the manufacturers can use those, and that could cut down on mining, it could cut down on deforestation, and also the extraction of oil and natural gas, which is the primary ingredient in making plastic. Two, we want to use these materials and products for their original intended uses and then reuse them for other uses before recycling them. And three, to take those materials and recycle or compost all the remaining parts of them to their highest and best use after we can no longer reduce them or reuse them. So that way we're getting the most out of these products before they're used again as raw materials. Next slide, please. In zero waste planning, one of the philosophies that we are adopting in our plan is people, planet, and prosperity. And this serves as a triple bottom line to achieve social, environmental, and economic sustainability locally as well as globally. Also, by taking this type of philosophy, it provides an opportunity for everyone in the community to participate. Begin by participating in reading and commenting on the plan. And then also, we'd like to implement any innovative practices and technologies that are out there that we can use to do waste reduction. And ultimately, this would improve and all our lives and benefit everyone in the community. Next slide, please. As you can see on the screen, there are 4 key state laws. The first one goes back to 1989, and the newest one was passed in 2016, and that's a big one. That's the one that's going to try to encompass everything that was not achieved up to this point. And so what this is going to really address is more of organic food yard waste and such that is in the landfills. Reduce that amount going in significantly, and also getting these organic materials out of the landfill is incorporated in task 6 of the 6 tasks in the zero waste plan, and we'll talk more about that later as well. So next slide, please. So how do we know what's in our waste? In 2015, City did an extensive study to determine just that. And you can see on the right, there's a list of 10 different categories of different types of materials that are actually in our trash and in our waste. So we determined through a recoverability analysis with that study exactly what's compostable and such. So 44.4% of what's going in there is compostable. 21.8% is recyclable. 16.2% is potentially recoverable. And actually, it's more now than that. In that category, there's lots of materials that are not considered recyclable in 2015. For example, chunks of concrete and asphalt and some wood products and drywall and such are now definitely recyclable. So, but there's a certain amount of materials in there that really are just trash that can't be reused for anything else, and that's 17.7%. So you can see we have a lot to work with and a lot to achieve with what's going into our waste stream that we can get out of our waste stream. Next slide, please. This slide here lists the 6 key strategic tasks. And when we're doing these, we're trying to achieve, again, I'll mention it, 90% waste diversion. 90% waste diversion for zero waste is a stretch. It's a tough haul to get to, but 90% is what is really considered zero waste, because it's pretty much impossible for a community to get 100%. So zero waste is what is considered, and 90% is what is considered zero waste. You can see there's different actions are going to take different time frames. We have short term, 3 to 5 years, medium, 6 to 10, long term, 11 to 14 years. We can't start all of them at the same time, and there's 38 of these actions. So this way it's set up and planned so we can start them and be most efficient in doing these. Again, as I mentioned, this is a live document, and at a 3-year point, we will evaluate. So as I mentioned earlier, if we feel something isn't working well, we can get rid of it. Or if we get a new idea from the community, or we can create a new one. Or if something is working really well, we can expand on it. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, there's 38 actions in the zero waste plan. And so we did some estimating with using sophisticated software from US EPA to determine exactly what we could do. So we determined that we could divert annually 84,810 tons, 84,810 tons of waste annually. And so what does that look like? It's hard to visualize that. So that would be 8,481 of the Blue Republic Service trash trucks, fully loaded at 10 tons each. And that would be them lined up bumper to bumper from Pacific Beach all the way to the Otay landfill. So that gives you an idea of how much waste could be diverted and reused in other ways. So that equates to a reduction in greenhouse gases of 141,353 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So another way to understand that, probably the best way, is that nearly equals 16 million gallons of gasoline consumed and burned. So I hope that gives you a better illustration of what we're trying to achieve. Next slide, please. So task 1 is to promote and support source reduction and reuse. And there's 13 actions. And I want to explain that all of these tasks are very interrelated in many ways, because they all have strong educational component to them to try to change the mindset of residents and businesses and such, to think zero waste, to think about reusing these materials instead of just throwing them away. So we're going to do education campaigns. We're also going to educate people about the benefits of repairing things instead of just getting something new when it actually could be fixed and continue to be used. We'll be conducting fix-it clinics. We already do that. That's a current action. We're going to expand on that. And we're also going to have at our household hazardous waste facility, we're going to continue to operate that, of course. We're going to have a reuse store, so where there could be paints or cleaning products and other such things that were not completely used that are still good, the residents be able to pick those up at no cost and use them instead of them ending up in hazardous waste facilities for for destruction. And also, we're working to adopt, under the zero waste plan umbrella, an ordinance to disallow single-use plastic items in food establishments. Next slide, please. Task 2 is reducing the use of toxic materials. We want to educate the community better about toxic products, and we want people to be healthier. We want them to use them in a safe way. We also want people to be aware that there's other options to products that some of them they can actually create themselves and such. For example, on our NatureScape website, we have recipes for where you can create mixtures of stuff to help eliminate some of the weeds and stuff safely in your yard. So also, that's the kind of thing we want to educate people on. We also want to work hard to increase the collection of toxic materials so people can properly dispose them, at the city's household hazardous waste facility. People are doing a great job of getting stuff there, but we got to continue this effort and increase our amount that we get there, so it doesn't end up in the environment. Next slide, please. Task 3 is promote and educate on zero waste principles. We really want to, as I mentioned, there's a lot of crossover between these tasks, and we want to create a community of zero waste champions. We're also looking to recognize people that are zero waste champions and what they've done, and we would also be recognizing them through the Sustainability Commission Awards and in many other ways as well. We're going to be working with the schools, and we want to help them activate more zero waste teaching. And also, one of the things we're going to be doing with the schools is we're going to be working with them to create clothing exchanges, so clothes don't end up in the landfill. You know, quite a bit of clothes end up there instead of being reused, and people could have clothing exchanges, and you know, what's old for you might be new for someone else, or vice versa. So these clothes will not end up in the landfill. Textiles make up quite a bit, up to between 5 and 10% of what goes into the landfill. Also, we're going to adopt zero waste guidelines for building deconstruction, do a better job of getting those materials when buildings are taken down, to reuse the wood, reuse the concrete and such. And also, as you can see on the screen, there's a picture of some of teenagers at one of our city events. We call them sorter associates. And then when you have, like, you've eaten your food at your event and you're like, well, what do I do with this? You know, and they're going to explain people what's trash, what's food waste, and what's recyclable. That way they can take that knowledge home and do those practices as well. Next slide, please. Task 4 is supporting the recycling industry. And what we want to do with this is we want to work with the local jurisdictions, the South County Economic Development Organization and other councils, and work with other jurisdictions. We want to attract more recycling businesses to Chula Vista and the South Bay. And these would be businesses that would take these materials from the landfill, that our resources, take those and make them back into raw materials. And also, there's a program the state does that has recycling market development zone loans that provides loans for those types of businesses to do that, to set up those facilities. We'll work with that program as well and try to attract some of those businesses. Also, another key thing, which is a long-term action, is to develop a resource recovery facility at the Otay landfill. And I guess a good way to describe that would be, for example, when you have your bulky pickup, maybe you have a desk, or maybe you have maybe a couch, or maybe a steel barbecue or something like that. Well, those are picked up when you do the bulky pickup, and you're probably going to wonder, well, where do they go? So we want to have a facility that can take those things. Let's say a barbecue. Maybe it could go to this facility. Maybe it could have a couple new parts put on it and be reusable. Maybe it's not, but that steel could be recycled at a metal recycling facility. Also, like say a desk. A lot of desks that get thrown away are actually pretty usable, and they can be fixed up a little bit and reused instead of being a big chunk of stuff that goes into the landfill, taking up a lot of needed space. So next slide, please. Task 5, improve education in trash and recycling programs. What we want to do is we want to create a recycle right vision for the city. And so again, as I mentioned, education. We'd be conducting multi-year, multifaceted campaigns to really educate people what goes in the trash, what goes in the recycling, and also what is going in your food waste. For example, residentially, we're going to be starting in January with doing food waste collection, and that'll be going in for residents in their green yard waste bin. They'll be mixed together and taken to the Otay landfill to create high quality compost. For businesses, though, it's going to be commercial businesses that have food waste, they would have a separate program for that, and they would be getting either carts that you can push like your green cart at home, but a little bit smaller, and then also, or a 2 ton dump, two ton dump, not ton. I think I got the right term, but anyway, 2 yard dumpster, cubic yard dumpster that would house that food waste, depending on what their needs are at that business. So what we also want to do is help businesses right size their service level. For example, if a business, let's say the restaurant has trash service 7 days a week, which some do, it's hard to believe, but they do, and they might have recycling 4 days a week. So when we start with the food waste program, they'll be getting that container, like I mentioned, so we can educate them to put what properly is food waste. Food waste would be, a couple examples are scraps from dishes or any cuttings from the kitchen that, when you're trimming vegetables and other food or meats or fats and stuff like that. All of that could go as food waste. And also any paper products that have food on them as well, like paper napkins and stuff like that. And so that would all go into the food waste thing. So if a lot of the stuff normally today is going into the trash, it would go into the food waste bin. So maybe it's possible a business, instead of having service for trash 7 days a week, maybe they could go down to 6 or maybe 5 days a week, or maybe reduce the size of the dumpster they're currently using. They might be using a 4 yard, maybe they could go down to a 3 yard. So we're trying to right size the service level and hopefully saves businesses some money. We'll also work with them to help them create their own in-house waste disposal recycling plans. And in doing all this, we plan to educate and go out to 1,500 businesses a year to do just this. We'll also be working with our partner, Republic Services, who also has staff that will be working with businesses as well. It's very much a partnership, a two-team approach. We'll be working together to get this out there to the community and let them know what's going on. So next slide, please. Task 6 is keeping organics out of the landfills, and that gets back to that Senate Bill 1383, and just what also I was just talking about a moment ago. So in implementing this food waste or organics recycling, it's going to take a huge effort working with the businesses and communicating with the public. We've already put some communication out there, and some of it's already on our website, the Clean website. We've done some mailers, and you're going to see much more coming out to the community as well, for residential and for commercial businesses. We'll be getting more communication in the next few months. And also we plan to start this program in January of 2022. So be ready, and we'll, if you have any questions and such, you can always contact the Office of Sustainability Environmental Services. Either email us or call us. We're there to help you. Also, one of the things that we're going to be getting out of this is all these organic products are going to be created and reused to develop really high quality compost. So compost is the end result of adding air and water and mixing it over a period of time and getting this high, rich, nutritious supplement for soils. And it can help to build healthy soils, increase the amount of good products in there. You get some in with compost, the soil will be able to get all kinds of the good bugs in there to really help plants grow. And also by the soil is very healthy, you won't need to use as much water to keep the plants healthy. So it's really a win-win. And some of these compost products will also be able to be used in place of traditional things for erosion control and such as well. It seemed that tests have been done and studies have been done, and it's been tried, and they work better in many instances than the traditional ways of erosion control, which is really kind of neat. And so we're also, going to be looking at that facility that's being constructed. It's almost done. It's at the Otay landfill. It's also solar powered too. And it's going to be producing, as I mentioned, really high quality compost. We're real excited about that. That compost will be available to the city at no charge to the material. And that material will be able to be used by Parks Department and landscape architects in their planning. And also landscaping companies will be able to purchase it. And also it can be used at schools. It can be used also in the agricultural industry. The farmers can use that. I don't know if you know, but in San Diego County, we have more small farms than any county in the United States. So this compost will be made available for them in for agricultural uses. And it's going to be pretty close. It's not going to be that far for them to get it either. So the next slide, please. As you can see, we're underway with this program to educate the community. We have the public comment period and such. And it ends September 30th, so you have 2 weeks to read the zero waste plan at chulavista.gov/zero waste, or go to the library and check out a hard copy. Read it. You'll have to read it there at the library. And also, we're been doing group presentations. We've done 8 presentations to the community so far, and we're going to have 4 more lined up through next week to let people know about the zero waste plan. And we hope to take some comments if people provide them, and if needed, modify any of the actions to make them a little better. We get some good ideas. And also, we plan to present to the city council later this fall, and after it's approved, begin implementation during the 4th quarter of this year. Next slide, please. There's my contact information on there. If you have any questions about the plan, you can contact me. But I highly recommend, again, you go to the website, chulavistaca.gov/zero waste, and read the plan and such. Also, Manuel Medrano, who introduced me, is also here, and he can also take questions and explain a little bit more about the food waste program as well. So we're ready for questions.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much for that great presentation. And we do have a couple of questions here, starting with one that's really, really interesting, and it makes sense. But we have we could explain, between you and I could explain, Bob. But question is, if there's achieve 90% diversion of waste from our landfill, wouldn't that be an 82.3%? The best we could do is hope for?
Well, what we think with our actions, we believe that we will get to around 77% with the actions that we described and with the results that I showed. So that's what we estimate. But to get to 90%, that's going to take some more effort, and that's going to take effort by getting the state to maybe change some of their laws to help us get to that. It's going to also take working with manufacturers and such to get them to take back products instead of us doing all the recycling and such, have take back programs for packaging and such. If we can do those sorts of things, and well, maybe you could elaborate a little more on it. That's how we hope to get to 90%.
Yes, there is a concept called extended producer responsibility, where the responsibility of items that are distributed through the economic system are now the responsibility of those that are creating them for us. And maybe now, instead of having to figure out how to make, or how to lessen their impact in the environment, with this responsibility going on to the manufacturer, now they might, the potential there might be there to create an item or piece of packaging that is recyclable. So then that doesn't enter the waste stream. And fortunately, there will be the chance for all of us to vote on an initiative that will be in the ballot here in California in the November 2022 election, which actually creates a requirement for all manufacturers to take responsibility for their packaging, and actually imposes a 1 cent penalty on every single piece of packaging, every single piece of plastic, or any type of or material that they put out into our economy in the state or distributed in California. So that's expected to generate between 40 and 60 billion with a B dollars in those penalties that will then could be used for market development, for creating new markets for materials, or for maybe retrofitting machinery at the recycling separation sites known as MRFs, or a manufacturing recycling facility. So that's really good news. In fact, the law in Oregon and Maine just passed in this past legislative session, similar law, where now the manufacturers are the ones responsible for it. So that's where I think we could reach that 90%, and then be able to reach that gap, because then manufacturers will start now see that impact in their bottom line, that they will start producing this material, the materials and packaging out of recyclable material. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was
sorry.
a great explanation, Manuel. Thank you.
I'm trying to go back to the, something happened here in my system. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let's go back to the Q&A. Another question is, many businesses seem to benefit from the use once, throw away society. From a use one, throw away society. Such a mindset helps them sell more products. So how do you get such a business to support a zero waste plan?
Well, I think one of the things that you just described is going to help them. If it hits them in their pocketbook, they're going to start changing their ways. But I think also you'll see that there are businesses out there that have a different attitude towards the environment. And those that have a positive attitude as far as not harming the environment, that value system that they have is similar to values that people have. So companies, I think, that match up with people's values is an important part of this. Questions or comments?
Um, well, you mentioned earlier, Bob, about the food waste program and the organics waste program. That's actually a change in the way we're looking at disposing of our waste. And there's another concept called the circular economy, which now gives the, and I really recommend to look up that concept. And the Ellen MacArthur Foundation actually has podcasts and great information on their website about this. It's a concept that's taking shape throughout the world, where now you're looking at material not just as a waste, as a one use and throw away item, into now part of something that keeps coming back into what our system is, and also fueling more business, fueling more fueling manufacturing, fueling employment, to be able to bring products back into our system, instead of just a linear model where everything gets used and then thrown away into a landfill, and not part of this model. So as more and more of those companies start looking at that model, and more policies are adopted that make it more economically feasible, you'll see a shift in that model, where it is going to become economically feasible for companies, and also socially responsible, as Bob mentioned. Okay.
I'd like to also point out that we do discuss that in our background material in the zero waste plan. So part of the plan itself provides you with educational type information, so you'll have a better understanding of what we're trying to do with the proposed actions in there. So that's a good starting point, is to read the plan. And there's also we have a reference list and other links you can go to as well. So
Great.
might be a good place to go.
We have another question here, and it says and asks, will this plan extend to operational life of Chula Vista's local landfill?
Most definitely will. It sure will. If we can cut down and, 84,000 tons of stuff isn't going in there anymore, that definitely will extend the life of that landfill. I don't know exactly how many years, but it definitely would do that. Manuel, maybe you have a little bit better idea on the number of years that could do that.
Certainly. You do mention on one of the on one of the initiatives, on one of the actions, is that we're going to be working with the Otay landfill. Which, by the way, just as a point of education, it's interesting. It's in Chula Vista, but technically it's an island inside of Chula Vista that's in the county of San Diego. So that's perplexing to a lot of people to think of it that way, but it is. If you look at a county map and a city map, you'll see that it's Chula Vista. And then right on the southwest area there, the middle of the southwest area, you'll see the carve out, where it's actually the same color as the map of the county of San Diego. So it's actually a county of San Diego landfill, which services mostly Chula Vista and mainly the South Bay. So we're working on creating a zero waste park there, or a resource recovery park, where again a lot of this material will be hopefully be reused, repaired, and create opportunities for employment, but also extend the life of the landfill, just like we're doing with organics and food waste, as we're not putting more waste in there, slowly but surely start developing this program, the potential for that landfill to stay open a little longer um, will be there. But now a lot of the material, like organics, that's creating methane is going to be much better managed than just putting it in the landfill and burying it. And then also could again become a center for employment for that material that could be repurposed and reused. And not just as some landfills, unfortunately, sometimes they just turn into a trail, which is great, an open space trail. But in this case, there'll still be area there where where it'll be used for materials management. So yes, the answer is that it does extend to the operations and operational life of the landfill. It does extend it for it will help to extend their life.
Manuel, I'm glad you mentioned the compound methane. Methane is created when it's buried in a landfill, and the organic materials in the landfill is what creates methane. I don't know if anybody out there knows this, but methane is considered 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And it goes into the atmosphere. Once it's released the atmosphere, it lasts about 20 years until it dissipates away. But during that 20 years, it's 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So that's something to really think about. And that illustrates how important it is to keep these organics out of the landfill.
Great. Next question. Do you plan to outreach to schools or provide info to teachers?
Yes, we do. We're going to be working directly with the school districts at the district level, as well as some schools in Chula Vista as well, at high school level and down. So yes, we will be communicating and working with high schools. One of the key things we want to do with schools is we want to activate some of their thinking more so than probably are. A lot of young people are really gung-ho on this now, and which is great. And maybe they can help educate their brothers and sisters that are younger and their friends, as well as their parents. One of the things we want to do is we want to help them do clothing exchanges. I don't know if you know, but clothing is a huge amount. Textiles, there's a lot of stuff going in the landfill that's good clothes. It can be reused. So clothes can be reused. And as I mentioned earlier, what might be, old to you could be new to someone else. So we like to do these exchanges. We're thinking of doing them for like schools that have uniforms. They can exchange uniforms when the bigger kids can, the little kids can get the ones as they grow up from the older kids and such. And also maybe do some vintage clothes exchanges. That's the kind of thing we've been thinking about as well. And maybe expand this out beyond, to other types of exchanges at the schools. That's some of the ideas that are in the plan.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, Bob, there's going to be support. My optimistic belief is that there's going to be support from the younger generations as we move forward for zero waste planning, waste reduction, and any sustainability type program. There was a recent article that explained that youth, as a survey, explained that youth are feeling nervous about what the lack of action that we're taking to slow down the impacts of climate change. So, and that was a pretty extensive survey that was done. So it shows that young people are interested in sustainability environmental sustainability matters. So I expect great support from this group, from the group of young people. They're our hope. They're the ones who are going to help us find a solution for this issue.
Yes, I will.
Another question here is there is a blue bin for recyclables, a green bin for compostables, a black bin for trash. Seems like there should be a fourth bin for broken or damaged items that could be repaired and used again, or for unbroken and undamaged, still useful items that are no longer wanted, like something that you could take to a Salvation Army or Goodwill. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. I think that there are opportunities to take that sort of stuff already to some of these places that take donated goods. And a lot of those places do check them out and they do repair them. So that's one thing you can do. Also, you can keep an eye out for the fix-it clinics we're gonna have and will continue to have. You can maybe bring something there, maybe a vacuum, maybe a bicycle that needs work, or just about anything you could think of. You could bring it there, and there might be an expert there to help you fix it. So, I mean, we really want people to think about fixing things first before just getting rid of them and get something, brand new. So that's one option. It's in our plan to do that. But like I mentioned, think about fixing it first. Maybe even find places that do it. We hope to have eventually on our website, on our Zero Waste website, a possible listing of businesses that do certain repairs. So that might be a source of information as well. It's something we're working on.
And I gotta say that anecdotally, in Chula Vista, we do have a very informal economy, I would say, of folks that are coming up from across the border, and perhaps with the border closings because of COVID, they're not as active. But um, there is a group of folks that are coming up and traveling throughout neighborhoods, really picking up great stuff that's still useful and still or repairable to take down to Mexico. I mean, that's just a small percentage, but there is that advantage that we have as opposed to other cities farther north. But yeah, that's an interesting concept where perhaps not a bin that could be where you could put these items, because I mean, if you put a table, that's gonna get that's not gonna be enough room. But working with the local nonprofits that are accepting these materials, maybe if they see that this material is going to be put out, maybe there's a way that we could work that into our programs. But more potentially more to come.
Yeah, it makes me want to stress a little bit more about the bulky pickups
Mhm.
service that you have as your Republic customer. You can call Republic and at 24 hours or so, or 48 hours in advance of your service date. And let's say you had like an old washing machine or something you wanted to get picked up, or a couch or something, call them and they can pick it up.
Mhm.
So I mean, I hate to say it, but you do see that kind of stuff occasionally just dumped somewhere, and there is a service to pick that up and hopefully get a second life out of it. So don't forget about that. Don't forget about bulky pickup.
Next question, Bob, is when do you expect to take this plan to City Council?
This fall, either October, most likely probably November.
Next question, education is definitely key. Any movement at the state level to mandate teaching school children about how a circular economy works and why we need to make it happen?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I know there's a lot of teachers that are taking that on themselves. Um, when you're talking about curriculum for schools and all that, that's a heavy lift, and that's something that's done often at the state level. But that's something that may be something we should be looking further into. Now, that's one of those things that may be to help turn the corner for zero waste, is that type of educational component. That's a great idea to look into that.
I also like to mention that I actually belong to a commission that is working with different initiatives and proposing a lot of policy into the legislature. In fact, three of the bills that currently sit in the governor's table and awaiting signature were developed out of this commission. But our task as the group and in the next year, the final year of our appointment, is to work with the legislature to understand circular economy. It's such a newer it's you think about it, it sounds like it's a new concept, but it really isn't. It shouldn't really be. But it's taking shape slowly but surely. So the state of California doesn't even have an adopted definition of what a circular economy and what it means to all of its systems. So we're working with the state to make sure this definition is adopted, and it's still a lot to come. But how does it affect recycling materials markets? How does it affect the economy? All that still needs to be developed. Fortunately, there's countries in the European Union that have adopted that those models. There's larger cities. Mexico City just adopted their circular economy model. and some policies there that one of the latest and the largest cities in the world, obviously, that just adopted that model. So there's plenty of information out there. You'll be hearing a lot more about what that looks like, and eventually it will make it into curriculums at schools, whether it's mandated. I agree with the question here. It should be mandated because it will help us. It will make our jobs a lot easier to help educate our city and our residents. Um, Next question we have: how do you incorporate public input into the plan after the public comment period as it ends?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all the comments, and we're going to see from them what if there are comments that add to the actions. We're asking people to do two things. We're asking them to provide a general comment on the plan, what they think of the plan. They have a broad improvement or just their reaction to it with a general comment. And then we're also asking them to take a look at each of those 38 actions and provide any kind of comment or input on those actions. And the comments that we get on any of those actions, if they're the type that can help modify or advance that or create it into a better action, we'll do that. If we find some information that we can fix that action up and make it a better action, we'll do that. So but we need input. We need to get input from people to do that. So it's really, the public has had 2 months now to do this, but you still have time. You have time to read the plan, and we're looking for comments by September 30th. So you have a couple of weeks to read the plan, and then provide any comments. It's all online to make it easy for you, and just follow the directions. They're pretty simple. And I think you'll get some input in there, and we may be able to use it. And also, I might add, if it's a great idea that isn't really relevant at this specific point in time, we're not going to just throw it away. We may feel that, hey, maybe we want to use this 2-3 years from now, this idea, or develop it and then put it back and put it into the plan. So any ideas you have are going to be looked at very carefully.
Another question we have: has there been any other cities that have successfully achieved a 90% diversion goal?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't really think so. But
My understanding is that the only city at this point is the city of San Francisco, but that was pre-COVID, and there were still questions as to some of the accounting. So I don't know if that still stands. But again, the diversion goal also has to do with the way the state of California requires cities to account for their disposal. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, yes, all the waste that we have that we're producing, it's some of it might not be recyclable, and it might not help us reach that 90%. But depending on how the state designates your city as to how much waste they're supposed to be producing per capita, that's how we also get to that number. So it sounds like it's an accounting thing, but it actually it really is. But you have to think about it in a way that it has to be equitable on how this accounting happens. There are cities out there that have a very small population, but a lot of industry. So their waste looks like it's through the roof, and very little recycling, unfortunately. And they certainly look like they're non-compliant, and they're producing a lot more waste per capita. And so that they usually adjust those rates and adjust those numbers. The state is adjust those numbers to so you're able to look at those averages. In the case of Chula Vista, it's the opposite. We have a large number of single family and multifamily and residential generators in general, as opposed to smaller numbers of industry. So all that is worked out through the state. It's a really complicated formula. So if you see the amount of trash we produce in Chula Vista every year, it hovers between 200 and 220,000 tons per year. And then our recycling numbers are nowhere near 90% at this point. So that's it. To look at it that way is not really an apples to apples comparison. So there's that accounting that the state does and it requires for the states to cities to comply with. Really complicated formula. But I wanted to make sure we point that out. But yeah, San Francisco is the only one that at this point claims to be at 90%, at least with California cities.
Thanks, Manuel, for that explanation.
There, I don't see any other questions on the Q&A, but those were really great questions. Some of the
Yeah.
best in this webinar and these webinars. So thank you very much for all those questions. This is again the last of our oh wait, we just brand new question that just came in, and it's, have you worked with other cities or agencies to learn best practices when putting this plan together?
Well, yes, we have. We studied several different zero waste plans going back to when people first started doing this. We also had a couple of consultants help us with this. In fact, one of them was from Zero Waste San Diego, and he's been one of the zero waste gurus for the country, really. So he's been involved in helping us with this plan as well. There's lots of good plans out there. One thing I'd like to say about the plan that we put together, our plan is much easier to read and absorb and understand. There's some out there that are just really long and really lengthy and really technical, and ours isn't. And now we did it that way so people can read it and understand it and learn something and help us and with providing comments. But we did communicate and get other information from other cities and consultants in doing this.
Yes, and there are cities, including our neighbors to the north, San Diego, that are actually working on their new version of their zero waste plan. Bigger cities now, especially the ones that adopted zero waste plans more than a decade ago, they're actually looking at reevaluating the way they are accounting for their waste and many other methods that could assist them in reaching that, because they found that after some of them after 10 15 years ago when they adopted a plan, they it was really difficult to reach that 90% threshold. So just like ours, theirs was also a living document, and they're reevaluating the way they manage their waste. And yes, again, to reiterate what Bob said, we did consult with leading I would say the nation's leading expert, which he happens to be here in San Diego. His name is Rick Anthony, and he has produced zero waste plans for multiple cities throughout the world, not just the country, not just the state, and not just the country, but the world. And he's been invited throughout the world to work on other plans. So he was happy with our plan. Obviously, with him helping us, that was extremely valuable. So I'd like to I publicly thank and everywhere I go, I thank Rick Anthony for the help on the zero waste plan.
Definitely.
So I don't see any other questions here, and I guess I'll give it a few seconds because last time I said that a question appeared on the Q&A, but um, just to let you know that this in all sustainability series webinars, whether the summer ones or the ones we've done for our Earth Day event, they're all available and recorded on our website, which is chulavistaca.gov/clean. I invite you to visit the website. There's a lot of great information. Events are posted on there, as well as current programs, future programs. So please visit that website, help us promote it. Also, like us on social media. We have accounts in Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Clean or at Chula Vista Clean, and hashtag Chula Vista Clean. So thank you very much again for joining us. Thank you, Bob, for this great presentation. Thank you all in the audience for the great questions. And stay tuned. We'll have more webinars coming up soon and the rest of the year and beyond. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and everybody have a good rest of your day.
Take care, everybody.